I knew I had something until I wasn't formally diagnosed with ME until about 1998. But I had friends that said possibility that I had it. And he said, well, in the early years, it's a joke that I had it because I've always been someone who's very, very, well, not very, very, yeah, quite fit. At school, I was into all the different sports. I've never been someone that's excelled at any one particular sport, but I liked all the sports. And if anything, my forte in all those sports was I had extra endurance, you see. So again, that natural endurance helped when I got the ME and possibly sort of covered it up as well. Some years ago, I trained in Tai Chi in a kind of a formal way, if you like, with a club and a master, although the master wasn't with our club all the time. So we had certain teachers that learnt from the master and passed it on and so on. And took to the Tai Chi. It's a fantastic form of exercise that covers every aspect of your being, to be honest. And so many years of practicing that in the normal way, like martial arts, learning certain postures and movements. That you don't get the grading system like in martial arts, like karate and that, but certainly you're observed and see how you go and the propensity of the individual and how you pick it up, and gradually if you're someone that shows that you do pick it up well, and it's not long before you reach a kind of a level where you start teaching it yourself. So cutting a long story short, that's what happened with me. So many years of training and learning, and then eventually there I was teaching Tai Chi, and again loved excellent results with that, helping a lot of people. Tai Chi can help all sorts of ailments. It helps people that are just ordinarily fit and just on that basis to stay fit and to improve their fitness, or it can help people with like physical problems. So how many years was I practicing before I got the ME? I think I started the Tai Chi in about 1984, and the ME came along about 1992. So by then I'd been training and practicing the Tai Chi for quite a long time, and I maintain that it really, really helped when I did get the ME to cope with the ME, put it that way, for many years. Well, from 92 right up until about 2000. But that, with the Tai Chi really went along. One of the aspects of Tai Chi, one of its principles is it's a practice of what they call longevity. So when it was very first developed by these Chinese hermits, there were stories that they lived for hundreds of years, and that's going back so many centuries. But even the ones that are recorded, some of them lived into their hundreds. The ones that are recorded, so it's an art form that promotes longevity. So that practicing that and my own ability for endurance helped kind of cover the ME that I had, which I know now started in 92, because I know the differences from that moment before and after. Because, like I said, I've always been blessed with all this extra energy and proud of it. Quite a small man, but very strong. A man that's very strong for his size and so on, and proud of it and worked hard. And in 88, I moved down from London down to the West Country, to it was a farm. It used to be a working farm that was um, bought by a couple who wanted to turn it into like a B&B plus a centre for people to live and practice alternative healing methods. And I met the woman part of the partnership through the college I used to practice in, College of Psychotherapy. I met her there, and she told me of this place, and so it coincided that I was in a position where a crossroads in my life, and wondering what to do next. And she said, "Why don't you come?" She's just starting the centre, it's regarded as a centre for people to come and live, like a community, not a commune, a community certainly, but all the people that lived there had their own little flats and flatlets and even bungalows and units and so on to live there. And they came together, and some worked outside, some worked on the farm. So it was a community like that. And in the beginning, it was all working nicely, and people were sharing their various therapies in the centre for outsiders to come and utilise. And I went there to create a herb garden, because I was already a herbalist and into growing them and so on, and to share my Tai Chi, you see, and that's exactly what I did, and it's all going swimmingly. But at the same time, to earn some money, the husband of the couple that owned the farm, the farm needed loads and loads of work to be done, including every single roof. So that's like, how many roofs were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 off the top of my head. And he was one of these people that he used to be a chartered accountant, but very intelligent man, very practical with his hands, and he would learn things really quickly on that practical side. And he decided to do much of it himself, you see. And so he needed people to help him. And I was one of the first ones to do that. I was creating the herb garden and also working on the land, growing vegetables and what have you, doing all of that. And growing vegetables, it's organic, especially organic. It's not a 9-to-5 job, and it's not a 5-day-a-week one. It's you can get up at dawn if you like and finish at dusk or in the evening, and it's every day really, because there's like constant weeds and creatures and goodness knows what to deal with. So, but I enjoyed it. It's all part and parcel of me being there, being part of the community. Really enjoyed it. So I was doing that all the time, and then as well as working on these roofs, and that really renewing the whole roof from scratch, taking off all the wood underneath, putting new underlay, the felt stuff that goes on top of the wood, and then all the tiles, which is really, really heavy. So up and down the ladders with the tiles on your shoulder, all that kind of thing. Really, really tall, big farmhouses, really, really tall ladders, up and down. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. A real sense of achievement when you see the roof that you've done and how nice it looks, and all done nicely and properly. Really good, really good professional standard. So did nearly every roof, and this went on for about 3 years, and then there come a point when I kind of had enough of that really, and so I felt a little bit owned by the owner. I was like his employee, and I wanted to sort of focus more on my work with the Tai Chi, and I was also doing a thing called colour therapy that I'd learnt from the college. I had my own room there on the farm, which did this colour therapy. That's another story. So I wanted to focus more on all that. So I kind of said to the owner, I'm going to sort of step back now and not do any more of that. And he wasn't too happy, because there was still tons and tons on a big farm. It's always work, and every day for years, 4 years solid, there was noise and banging and machines going off on the farm because of all the work that needed to be done. So I'd backed off, but one day he had one more particular roof to do, a big one, and he said, and he kept asking me, "Come on, would you just do this one more?" No, come on, please. And I thought, and I remember at the time, my mum wanted to go on a holiday, and she didn't have quite enough money and so on. So I thought, what if I do a bit of work for him, earn the money and give it to mum so she'd go on a holiday? So that was incentive enough to go back on the roofs, right? So there I was, and because it was the main farmhouse. She says, a great big roof. There was someone else on the farm and another one, so there was 3 of us up, and so they started to do it. So I was very familiar with it all. So I started to go up the roof with this, and I thought, what's going on here? I felt this unbelievable sort of inertia going up the ladder, and I knew it wasn't just being out of fitness or anything, because I hadn't long finished doing the other ones anyway, and kept up all the Tai Chi and all, running and swimming and stuff like that. So it wasn't to do with not being fit, but it was really marked and extraordinary that I was going up the ladder, and it was like each step was like wading through a tar of energy. And the tiles were like, up to 10 times heavier, they felt. So, and it was really baffling me. So I'd kind of persevered, and my friends, I thought that I had, more energy than them and fitter than them, kind of thing. They were sort of buzzing away, and I thought, this is something wrong. This can't be right. So I remember thinking at the time, the only thing I could come up with at the time, still didn't think it was anything physiological wrong with me, was I thought, I wonder if it's just psychologically because I didn't want to do it. I thought that's what it was. I thought, it must be to do with that. Psychologically, I didn't want to do it. I'm forcing myself to do it. So, I'm just going to get on with it. So that's what I did. I used my willpower and just carried on doing it. But no matter I did use my willpower, I still couldn't get rid of this sense that I was wading through, and it's like utterly exhausting as I was doing it. Now, if you've got ME, if you've had ME at a certain level or for a certain amount of time, you wouldn't be able to do it at all. I couldn't do that at all now. I'd get about 5 steps and fall off or something. So you couldn't even attempt to do it. So there I was, sort of forcing myself to do it all, and finished the job, and just thought, well, that's over and that's it. And then I think within a year or so I met somebody and moved away from the farm. I just got on with life with my new partner and doing all sort of normal life things. And as I said before, I remember making sort of joke of it. My partner used to suffer with sort of lack of energy and things, and she still does to this day. And that's interesting because with some people, they can have what can look a bit like ME, and often it's like a thyroid problem. A lot of women get it, you see, more commonly, put it that way. They get thyroid problems, and that can cause this terrible lack of energy to the extent that it wipes them out and so on. But, a couple of days later, a week later, and they're back to normal, completely back to normal, do all absolutely normal things, run a marathon or whatever. Whereas if you've got ME, no way, you don't ever get back to normal and can do the normal things again. So every now and again, I'll just joke, perhaps we've got ME today, just make a laugh of it. And that went on, as I said before, for a number of years, thinking, just making a sort of a joke of it. And I think, as I said, with the Tai Chi and this extra endurance that I used to have, it just with me anyway, it just somehow took a long time to really come in, until it finally did come in. And then, like I said before, when it did come in full on, as it were, I started to get all these other sort of peculiar ailments that can come with ME, and no matter if I use my willpower or not, just can't rise above it, you know. So like now, how many years are we down the road now? It's another 15 years, isn't it, since I felt it came on more heavy. As I said, I couldn't, if I run the Hoover over the floor, for instance, that just over one little floor in this room, that's it, I'm whacked out, and I'll have to rest up, and so on. But anything like, there's no way I could put towel. Well, if I just put towels on my shoulder, that's something that used to happen. My partner, she had a little girl already. She was 4 years old, and you know, like little kids, they clamber on you, and that's something else that happened for the first time, and I couldn't work it out why. One day she just got on my shoulders, and it really hurt. Like, oh, you know, what are you doing? And I thought, well, she's only a little kid. She's not meaning it, but it just really hurt. And it can't, you know, a little kid can't hurt that much. I thought, again, just ignored it. But like now, if a little kid got on my shoulders, it would really hurt. That's the thing with ME. And sometimes it's worse than others. Sometimes I just slightly bash my foot on the wall. It's like someone's hit me with a sledgehammer. It's really, really awful. But it's not always like that, thank God. But even at its best, if I get banged, like I've got a little step grandson, and he's 5 years old, and he kind of whacked me the other day, and that really hurt. And he's only playing, you know. You had this thing that this sort of strap thing that you whack on the wrist, and it clings to the wrist, and that really hurt. And of course I couldn't tell him that it's hurting. I just had to pretend it didn't, you know, just try and get him not to do it anymore, you know. But clambering on me, it all really hurts. Anything like that, everything hurts extra. So that's a mark of ME too. But this is one of the peculiarities of ME, and why I think the professionals, the doctors and that, sometimes struggle with it, is there seems to be this great wide gauge on how individuals can be affected. So you can get down the one end, like me when I first got it, where it kind of hardly registers at all. It's still sort of doing lots of normal things. Then, you know, up to, 8 years, then it started to register, but I still could do quite a lot of things. By then I was still doing my Tai Chi, for instance, then. But then gradually, from that day, the year 2000, I can't even do the Tai Chi, you know. Did I tell you this? Can't. Yeah. Well, but that's not with all ME sufferers. You think that Tai Chi, because it's like slow movements, would be ideal for ME sufferers. Because I remember when I first was teaching down here, and people would ring me up and say, I've got ME, do you think Tai Chi will be okay? And I'd say, well, I think it would be ideal for ME, because it's really slow, nothing strenuous or bashing. But actually it's not, because it is actually strenuous, because those slow movements, you are actually using all the muscles, even though it's slow. And slow motion actually is a lot more strenuous, again, than you realise. But with one of the symptoms that I suffer with my ME is this, and not everyone with ME gets it, you see, but I am one that does. What happens is, again, in the medical world, they haven't given it a name. They're not certain if it is true or not. There's no sort of certainty about it. But within the ME sort of circles, it is more kind of known and accepted, and some get it. And that is, when you do any kind of exercise, you start the adrenals going. So the adrenaline pumps it into the muscles, anything, the slightest thing, but the more sort of exciting, the more adrenaline, obviously. And then what happens is, when you stop the exercise, the adrenaline in the body turns to lactic acid, okay? And then what happens with the normal person, that lactic acid then disperses naturally into the body. Now, with me and with other people with similar things with ME like me, that lactic acid doesn't disperse, so it becomes like a toxin and it stays in the body, and I get these shakes, you see. And so for instance, it's in all of my body really. It's actually in my arms and in my neck. So if I get excited, like if I'm talking and getting passionate, excited, your adrenaline goes up into your head, doesn't it, when you get excited? And I can feel it shake. My head starts to shake, you see. And originally I was like really worried that it might be something like Parkinson's, a neurological thing like Parkinson's. But when I went to see a neurologist at one point, and they said it's definitely not Parkinson's because blah, blah, blah. So that made me feel better. I now know what I believe it is. So it's also in my arms, but again, because I don't use my arms that much, it's not so noticeable. If I'm going to do any gardening or whatever, definitely it will start happening really quickly. Just a few little clips or using the shears, it'll start it off. But on your legs, you're using your legs all the time. So therefore, they're going to start shaking really quickly. And they will shake quicker by just standing still, funny enough. If I can walk just in a gentle pace on a flat level, and that's the best thing for me, just walking at a gentle pace on a flat level. Standing still, for some reason, you're using certain muscles. I don't know exactly what you're doing, but using certain muscles more, and the shakes start, and I literally can't stand up. Not only that, but not only is it just this leg shaking, but it feels like someone is literally pushing me into the earth. That's what it feels like for me, you see. So it's only a matter of seconds, and I can't stand up any longer. So if I was forced to carry on in that spot, I have to sit on the floor. If there's nowhere to sit, no chairs, I have to sit on the floor, because if I didn't, I would just collapse. So with the Tai Chi, or just doodling like around shops, doodling like in a good example would be in a museum looking at pictures, that kind of doodling. And Tai Chi is exactly the same. The slow movements accentuates it. So I can't do the Tai Chi. But just recently, I don't know why I didn't twig it earlier, but of recent, a year or so ago, I got so bad, I got so ill, because I wasn't doing any exercise whatsoever. I'd lost my last dog and I didn't get any more dogs, so I wasn't sort of forced out to go for walks and things. And I was getting iller and iller, and I thought, I've got to do something about this. So I started to do what we call Qigong, which is like, Qigong is Tai Chi's sister, really. And Qigong is like Tai Chi, but doing movements kind of like this, and using the breath, but it's in one standing still, more or less, and not moving around. In Tai Chi, you tend to cover a little area, you see, so many yards backwards and forwards and so on. With Qigong, you tend to stand in one sort of space. But one reason why I didn't really take it up, because you tend to stand with Qigong, you see, but for some reason I didn't put two and two together until I really desperately needed to do something. And what I do is I sit down and do it, you see. So I sit down and do the Tai Chi, the Qigong, and that has really brought me back up and really helped me so much, because you're consciously working with the breath as well with Qigong. It's part of its mystique and its magic and its practicality. More so, you're working with the breath more consciously, even so more so than Tai Chi, and it's really helped me a great deal. So I sit down doing my Qigong and so on. Yeah. So we were talking about, I was going to make a point about from the healing perspective, but now I've forgotten what I was going to say. And that is a classic example of people with ME. It's not just the brain fog. The brain fog is more like, where it's literally like a fog, and that's awful. Fortunately, I don't get that often, but when I do, it's horrible, because it's like you feel nauseous as well and sick and so on, and it wipes you out even more. But the other general thing people get with ME is that they forget what they've said, And the people joke about it like, oh, it's because you're getting old and so on. But it's not. It's not just about getting old. There must be something to do with, you know, the brain synapses or whatever, to do with short-term memory. It affects them somehow, and it's quite funny sometimes how it just completely goes. But everyone knows that in various other reasons. But yeah, that's a common thing. Again, here I've never been someone. I haven't got nerves of steel. I'm not claiming to be ultra cool or brave or anything like that. But I've never been a person that is particularly got a nervous disposition. But again, but in the last few years, things have happened where just fallen apart, and I've really analysed it, and again tried to apply the various psychological things that you would apply for nervous kind of conditions, and they just don't work. I've really tried to apply them, but they don't work. So I've come to the conclusion quite strongly, this is not just a thing off the top of my head, I've come to the conclusion that when something happens, it has to be something kind of, you know, a big happening in your life, some sort of, which happens to everybody, some sort of crisis. It affects me, and it possibly, you know, with lots of people with ME, very physiologically. So something happens physiologically, then I get the anxiety. So I really believe that I get a physiological kind of anxiety rather than a sort of a psychological one. Can you see the difference? So, and then when I've had it really bad, the last time I had it was when I was moving. You say, well, lots of people get that, but it was so bad that I had to get help, and I had to have the drugs that kind of help on that level. And I kind of helped. I had a doctor that was a good doctor, and he let me. This doctor let me sort of use my own intelligence with it, my own, you know, looking it all up and deciding which drug might be better for me and which not. Ones I've tried before that have given me bad side effects. He let me use this one that I thought would be the best, and some other close friends have also advised and so on, and it did the trick. It got me through this crisis period. And again, and often these drugs are looked upon as quite scary because you can get easily addicted to them. But I've used them for the certain period, and then I've finished with them and got off them with no trouble. Now, back to that Tai Chi thing, I think coupled with that sort of innate extra ability that I used to have, I was blessed with that, you know, like marathon runners and whatever. I did have extra endurance, I believe. And that with the practice of Tai Chi, I could sort of keep the big toes worth running, you know, a lot longer and without sort of seeming to affect me so much. And I could do certain things, you know, like going for walks a bit further than most people would with ME. And for a long time, you know, as I say, up until about the year 2000. And then from there, different symptoms would start to come out of me, like you know, other diseases, what some people would call a different disease that maybe have no relation to the ME, but nonetheless, whether it has got relation to the ME or not, if you've got it, then it really affects. And that's so from that time, I've been like, you know, the average person with ME, where even with willpower, my natural abilities, the Tai Chi, nothing works, you see. And that's, again, that is one of the signatures of ME, is that things don't work properly like they're supposed to.